Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. I'm your host, Kiera Dent, and I have this crazy idea that maybe I could combine a doctor and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, regional manager, practice owner, and I have a team of traveling consultants where we have traveled to over 165 different offices coaching teams. Yep, we don't just understand you, we are you. Our mission is to positively impact the world of dental, and I believe that this podcast is the greatest way I can help elevate teams, grow VIP experiences, reduce stress, and create A-teams. Welcome to the Dental Team Podcast. Hey, Dental Team listeners, this is Kiera, and you guys, I am beyond giddy about the fact that we are having a way for you guys to kick off your 2023 in the most epic way. That's right. I want you guys to go into 2023 with direction, with a plan, and to actually get something done. If you've been looking at that operations manual, it is time, guys. For 3 months, every single week, I'm going to be doing a workshop with you and your team in January to get that operations manual done in 3 months. Guys, this is a value of over $10,000 that I know you're going to freaking love because you're actually going to get it done. So if you want to get your ops manual done in 3 months and kick off your January ultra strong, head on over to thedentaleteam.com/ops manual, and I will see you January 5th for our kickoff. Hello, Dental Team listeners. This is Kiera, and guess who's back? She's back and not in black. She's black and blue with Dental Team. That sounds even worse as black and blue. Tiff, welcome back to the podcast. That was my worst intro of you. How are you today?
I'm so good. And I'm actually wearing gray right now, so don't stress. We're not so black and blue. It's perfect.
I was like, man, Dental Team's colors rough, black and blue. Like, okay, that's fine. So what's black and blue all over? Tiffany Trader and Dental Team. Yeah. Perfect. Like, worst intro. But guys, Tiff and I are back. You know, if you didn't catch our episode last week, we are actually going to take you guys over these next 12 weeks through the end of the year of all the different themes that you should have systems for. So if I was you guys, I would have my little notes on my phone and I would list these themes as today's theme is going to be management, mastery, and leadership. And we're going to kind of do a deeper dive on this theme of the systems that should be in place. So you can say like, yep, management, mastery, and leadership, I'm a 10 out of 10, or wow, I'm a 3 out of 4. Don't worry, guys. There's no judgment on any of this. We're just trying to help you guys baseline by the end of the year so you can go back and look at all this work that you've put in. You've thought about it. Even if you don't want to write it down, you can think about it and realize like, wow, that's our theme. And those are our areas that we're really weak in that we need to build systems for next year. So what we're trying to do is I've done a podcast on this in December, the last 2 years. I've taken you guys through every department. And this year, Tiff and I, labor of love for you guys, we wanted to actually walk you through week by week by week in the podcast in last quarter, Q4, so you could really start to analyze every section of your practice and know exactly where you need to go next year. So Tiff, you ready? You ready to take on management, mastery, and leadership?
Heck yeah. I love the name, by the way.
Yeah.
Management, mastery, and leadership. I love it.
That's one of Tiff's superpowers. Tiff's superpowers is naming themes. Though if you ever like our whole doing what matters when we used to be, what were we? We were dental masters. When that company used to exist, Tiff came up with doing what matters. She's just really clever at naming everything. So most of these titles of all these, I would call them categories with systems underneath. So it's like the management, mastery, and leadership, office management. Like, what are the systems that actually make that systematized? Like, we're taking themes, ideas, theories of departments into tactical systems for each of these sections. And I agree. It's one of the best names I think that you listed off. So well done.
Thanks. I do love naming things. I don't know why. It just pops in my brain. Like, yes, that's the one. That's the one. Or no, that's not it. That's not it. We got to keep going. So, I do love it. I love it. But I think January honestly is one of my favorite months of the whole year that we did, because I love them all, but I love January because there's so much meat in here with management and leadership. And I think those two words are such key words in the dental practice, like management and leadership, like how to be a leader, but still managing your team, right? And not being the manager, the micromanager, but kind of removing that manager piece, that micromanager word and name, kind of removing that and creating that leadership and accountability. And I think that's what January really is all about, how to see the growth of the practice, how to gain growth of the practice, and how to get your team on board with culture and downtime protocols, having hard conversations, like team morale, all of those pieces, and really learning how to then track it with KPIs is all jammed into the month of January. And I think it's super cool. I think there's so much just fire information in here that if you miss any month, like, don't let it be January, if you're asking me, because there's so much information just jam-packed into that month.
Totally. And so thinking of that theme, so as you guys are assessing this, I also love that it's called management mastery and leadership, because I think so much the title office manager or the theme of office manager is left to so much question versus management mastery. There is management and operations and making sure our business is developing and utilizing the leadership piece to grow the practice. So much of this topic, I would say, like Tiff said, is, are you guys as an office manager unit and leadership department within your practice, do all the people in that, so leaders, office managers, team leads, doctors, are you guys tracking KPIs in that area of your practice? Are you guys consistently looking at making sure, if you're not a startup practice, but you're an established practice, that your practice is growing at least 10% annually? Are you guys running effective meetings in that leadership and management departments of your practice? Do your team leads know how to run effective meetings that actually get results? Do you have weekly check-ins with team members? Do you have monthly one-on-ones with team members? Do you actually have accountability agreements? Do you guys work on those things? Do you have your leaders take training on how to be more effective leaders? Are you running book clubs to help them, to inspire them to be stronger leaders? Books such as, some of my favorite ones for leadership are like Essentialism, Effortless, Ego is the Enemy, 5 Dysfunctions of Teams, The Humanized Leader, The Obstacle is the Way, The Motive, Crucial Conversations, Who Not How, Toyota Way to Lean Management, Creating Magic. Do you guys actually do that in your leadership groups in your practice? Are you truly leading your practice? Do you guys have, like, that's on the leadership side. And then the management side is, do you have all the protocols in play to know what people are doing, to be tracking those items for end of day checklists, downtime protocols, making sure that we have handbooks updated and given to each new hire, and also consistently updating them? Like, those are the types of things. So there's the management side, which I feel is more the structure, the framework of the practice. And then the leadership is the how we're doing this. Are we a culture of dictatorship? Are we a culture of growth and expansion? Are we a group of accountability and empowerment? That way we're minimizing the entitlement within our practices. And are we also building that culture and morale within the practice? Do we have team outings? Do we have things of team building for our practice? Are we offboarding people when they leave our practice and finding out why they're leaving so we can make it better? That's what we talk about when it's like in your management. So the systems, the operations, the accountability, and then the leadership, those leading and guiding. And are they actually leading for right reasons? Do they have egos? Are we wanting to be leaders for the title of it? Or are we leading because we love to serve? We love to think of ways to make their lives easier, to make our patient experience better, to grow the practice, because we know if we grow, we get to serve more people. Is that the culture of your leadership? Because if not, that might be an area that me as a practice owner, me as a business owner would say, we might want to spend some time there, because that's your foundation that's actually going to grow the rest of your practice. So those would be the questions I would be asking, looking at this practice, of exactly where am I within this topic? My management mastery and leadership, are we a 10 out of 10? And Tiff, I would actually like pivot that to you. And I actually might split this as I'm saying it out loud, because I think it'd be easier, like, rate your management. So the systems, the operations, the accountability, the follow through, and then rate your leadership on a 1 to 10. So Tiff, this is going to be on the spot, which I love to do because it gets real answers. It's like, surprise, what are you going to say? Dental A team. Let's like do this as if we were a podcast listener rating Dental A team. And I have no clue what this is going to turn out, but guys, you're going to help me set up my goals for next year as a team. Here we go. So Tiff, from your perspective, the management of dental A team. So like I said, management, I feel, is more operations, the systems, accountability. 1 to 10, 10 being like, we are absolutely perfect, which guess what, guys? If you give yourself a 10, you're lying. No one's ever a 10. So 10's a pretty hard number to achieve. 1, we are totally like not even on the map. So Tiff, where would you as an employee of dental A team rate dental A team's management from your perspective?
I would say today, right now, I would probably give us a 7.
All right. What would make it a 10 if we were to get there? Like, what do you feel? And guys, this is like real life coaching with me and Tiff. Like, this is not scripted, but I want you guys to see how to do this for your own practices, because I think team and leaders see it very differently. So Tiff, what would make it from your angle right now a 10 for the management, operations, accountability, systemization in our company?
Well, I think our IP, right? We're constantly developing that and refining that. I think that's going to help a ton. And then our project management has been something that we've been trying to refine. We're working on that. It's coming into play. That's going to help a ton. And the accountability piece that's attached to that. I think that we've got so many different departments of our company, and we're so remote that really finding those tools, which Pat has been stellar in helping us with, and Shelby has done so much freaking work behind the scenes, and Kylie's been helping a ton. Finding those pieces, I think, are what's going to bring us up to a 10 of accountability and really just management overall for our company.
I love it. So guys, I am actually glad that we have me and Tiff on this podcast, because Tiff and I get to bring I'll be the doctor, guys. So like your business owner, and Tiff's a team member perspective in this scenario, because I was thinking, what is our management? Like, how do I feel like our systems, our organization? And I'm like, I would say between a 6 and a 7 is where we are, for the same reasons Tiff just said. I think our project management software has not been great being virtual. I don't think we stay as accountable. We like to be more friends and a little more loose on those things, but I think it's because we don't have the clarity of exactly what needs to happen. And so therefore, I feel like that is more of a stressful zone. And to your point, Tiff, the IP for us to onboard and to have really strong ways that dental A team speaks and acts in a simple way is another zone that we are working on right now. So completely agree with you. Now let's pivot it if we were assessing our company on the leadership side. So the vision of the company, the growing of the company, the I would say servant leadership mentality of our company, making sure people who are leaders of our team are not. And Tiff, you get to lump yourself into this. Tiff is the lead consultant. So Tiff would be in there. Tiff, what do you feel our leadership on a 1 to 10 portion of our company is? 10 being like, we have amazing leaders who truly are here for the right reasons, who hold people accountable, who have the crucial conversations, who come to team meetings to develop and to grow and to innovate as a leadership whole of our team. And I have no idea what you're going to say, and I'm excited for your honest, this is a good, like, one-on-one in the podcast, guys.
That's so true. I don't think there could have been 2 more perfect people to have this conversation.
I would agree.
You want to learn how to communicate, just like follow Kiera and I around. I think leadership, I honestly and truly think that I would give us an 8. I'm like between a 7 and an 8, but I'm more leaning towards an 8. And the reason for that is that I think you do have fantastic leadership. You do have those hard conversations. You do it quickly. You don't wait for it. You don't let it sit. And that's something that I think as a leadership team, we've really, really worked on from both of our sides, like really being able to just have that conversation with the person that it needs to be had with when it needs to be had. So for company leadership, I think I really feel like good with an 8. For me as a leader, I think I am more like a 6. I think I could do better as a leader in our company to help bring that overall number up. So I think it's like twofold, because I think it's as a company, we can see the leadership team and we do come to meetings, and I know I come with ideas and I'm like, great. And I'm, happy to be there. But I think behind the scenes of really leading the consultants and having those conversations and seeing the accountability pieces with my consultants, I think I could do better there.
That was like, I wish we were in person, because I would hug you for being that vulnerable on the podcast, and also in front of me, because guys, this isn't just for you, but you have to realize Tiff is technically talking to her boss on this podcast, and we are in 2 separate states right now. So Tiff, thank you for being that vulnerable, because I feel like what you just shared is what I would hope like leaders would actually be able to say. And so I feel like agreed with you. I was going to say a 7. And ironically, I think it's the consultant world that's probably our lowest zone within our company. It was operations. We've got that one more growing. Marketing was a struggle. So those are on the up and up, but agreed with you. And for you to actually like look at yourself and to be able to say you could improve that, that's half of leadership, guys, is to be able to see it. And then the other half is to execute on it. So agreed with you, Tiff. My number was going to be a 7 on our leadership because I actually think for me, and then myself personally, I give myself like a 7 or an 8. I feel like I'm actually a really good leader who wants to lead for the right things. My zone is I still people please a lot, and I often don't make clear enough decisions. I'm getting better. I feel like since you met me, Tiff, to where I am today, I've radically improved. I still think I struggle to make strong decisions on the hard things. Like today, Tiff knows, I won't say it. Pat asked me about something that he's going to push through that really is the right answer for the company. But I'm so scared of the backlash of like, but what if that person doesn't like us? And like, what if we upset them? And that's where I feel like I need to grow as a leader. And then making sure I hold the leaders in our team accountable to being those stronger leaders and developing them. So not even holding accountable. I think it's more developing, encouraging, and having them also set their own goals could make our leadership department stronger. So as you guys just watched, and Tiff, again, thank you for being that vulnerable on the podcast. Tiff and I gave us as a management, we're like a 7 to an 8. And then our leadership, we're at that like 6, 7, 8 range. So I would say if we combine both of those, I would feel healthy saying our management and leadership is probably a 6.5 to a 7 as an overall organization. I also think it's really cool how Tiff is a team member, and I asked her about this. So instead of just me as a leader thinking, ask your team what they feel. Just like how Tiff and I just did it. I'm like, Tiff, for these systems, for this, you guys can literally take this podcast and listen to it as a team and do it together as a team, because I feel like team members see it differently. I will also caution to ask team members that you actually care about their opinions. I say that with respect. I say that with love, but I don't feel all opinions are weighted as equally, especially when I'm trying to really get to the crux of what's going on. Of course, I can ask everybody. Yes, you can send anonymous surveys, which I think is very valuable. But if I'm really wanting it, go to people like, I know Tiff has the absolute best interest of our company and me at heart. I know Tiff would never, ever, ever lie to me. And I know she's probably going to sugarcoat me a little bit higher just because she genuinely loves me rather than like maybe a little lower. But I feel like Tiff will always give me the uncomfortable feedback. Always will tell me how I can improve. And so therefore I weight Tiff's opinion much stronger than asking my mom how she thinks I am as a manager and a leader. So really make sure that the feedback you're getting is weighted. Absolutely, you can send an anonymous survey out to your team, but I feel like getting a team and the leader's perspective in this area especially can help you see blind spots you might not have seen. I said a lot, Tiff. What are your thoughts on it? What do you feel?
I think it was a really fun exercise, actually. And I have to speak on like the transparency and the vulnerability. And I have to impose this upon all of our listeners because I want you guys to understand and consider the idea that it's not always the other person's responsibility. I want to say, like I say that word lightly, to come with that. And I will explain this. Oftentimes, leaders or managers think, okay, I want my team member to be as vulnerable and transparent as Tiff just was. Tiff was able to say what she needed to say. She saw it in herself. Like, why doesn't my team do that? Oftentimes, we stifle our teams and our team members, and we put them in this box where they're not comfortable or they don't feel safe having those kinds of conversations or feelings, or they haven't done the work to be able to see that. So you've got to understand that Kiera and I have worked so hard and so diligently and gone through the pain and gone through the growth and the uncomfortability between our relationship while building this company for me to feel comfortable being vulnerable and transparent and having that conversation with you, Kiera. Like it's not just because of who I am, it's because of who Kiera is and who we are together. So coming from that point, really developing and growing the relationships with your team members as a leader, and gaining that respect and that candor from them is something that's worked on. It's not necessarily always something that's just like earned because I'm here I show up every day and I'm here. Like, you've got to have those hard conversations, and you have to be open and willing and able to be vulnerable yourself so that someone else can feel like they're able to be vulnerable and to be able to be seen. And I think that's a very important fact to understand going into this, because I can see everybody just jumping off a cliff and being like, let's have these great conversations and tell me all the things. And they're like, why isn't this working like Tiff and Kiera's did? Like, that's why, because we both are able to be vulnerable, and it opens that door up to be able to have those hard conversations. And yes, like, we do have a friendship, but I think that it's far beyond that. It's from work that we've developed that, not our personal side, which I think that just comes with working together for so long. You guys all know that, you know, the personal lives of and inner workings of your team. So I just want to make sure that was very clear and understood.
Well, and I think that actually ties so perfectly into management mastery and leadership, because if your team won't have those transparent conversations with you, that's a big red flag and a zone for you to have an opportunity to work on. I agree with you, Tiff. This did not come easily, which is why I love coaching offices, because Tiff and I have actually physically gone through it. We've had to work through it, and we've had to come to the table. I still remember our first uncomfortable conversation, like my first real one. I was sitting in the car at an office because I was so frustrated. I was in New York and New Jersey, and I was like, what the heck? Like, what is going on? And I was so anxious, and I'm pretty sure you can remember that conversation too. I was like, you did what? And you didn't tell me? And yet it was like no big deal to her. But that's like where we started. And I just have we've built on it so much, and we will not tolerate uncomfortableness. Like, you can always feel that weird energy. Tiff will text me and say, I feel your weird energy. I'm ready for the convo when you're ready for it. So she gives me that space. She knows it. And that's also helped me to have it. But I would say, if you don't feel you could go to your team right now in front of thousands, guys, we have over 50,000 listeners. Like, if you can't go to your team in front of that many listeners and be put on the spot with them and know, like, cool, like whatever Tiff said in front of you guys, I was not worried, because it's true, it's honest, it's going to be in the best interest of me and her. But if you don't have that yet, I would definitely check this topic, this theme, this area of your practice, the management, mastery, and leadership, to continue to develop. If you have multiple leaders in there, so it's not just me and Tiff, we also have Shelby and Pat, who are also part of the leadership team. How are they as leaders as well? Because that's going to influence. And maybe I've got 2 really strong leaders in a practice and 2 not as strong. Those 2 that aren't as strong, they're actually going to pull this number down, because you need to develop them. You can't just look at your superstar rock stars. You've got to look at the person who's the weakest leader, because that's the number that we've got to improve. Not your highest ones. It's the weakest one. And how can we improve that leader? Because all of us need it. So I actually felt like it was one of the coolest podcast that wasn't expected, Tiff. I think this is one of our best work here. This is the labor of love. We put it out there. Tiff and I are bringing our best selves to this. But I feel like that's how you guys can really assess this topic, this area of your practice, and how are you doing. Give yourself a number before you leave this podcast. And like I said, think of yourself, think of all the managers and leaders on your team, and then give yourself a final number. And maybe jot some notes of the areas you could improve right now, because that'll help you as you go through the rest of these to see, all right, at the end of my week, at the end of these 3 months, what are the biggest areas to really grow in? Maybe it will be leadership and management mastery. Maybe that's your strongest zone that you need to really improve for next year, but it might be some other ones. This is just box 1 of 12 for you guys to go through.
Yep.
Tiff, anything on your side?
No, I think this was great. I love when I just love when we podcast together, because I think we feed off of each other and we riff, and we never really know what's coming, and it's always something totally magical.
Agreed. And I'm glad you feel that way, because I feel that way. And so again, guys, take your numbers, do this exercise, look at that management mastery, the operations, systemization, accountability, and the leadership side as to why. We listed off a bunch of things you could go and check, but really give yourself a number of that area of your practice And be sure to join us next week when we go through doctor optimization as the next portion. So this is the doctor department of your practice. Tiff, it was a freaking blast. Thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for going through these 12 systems. I think it'll also help us train consultants in the future. Like it's a double win for us. But thank you. Thank you for being here and for sharing and also for the relationship we have evolved, like you said, over the years, and for bringing that point up of you can't expect people to be there if you haven't grown and developed that relationship as well.
Yep, totally agree. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, guys. Next week, doctor optimization, the doctor department of your practice. Let's dive through that, see how it's doing. And as always, guys, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time on the Dental A Team Podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team Podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.